Hello and welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We have gotten rid of some technical difficulties, gotten some stuff fixed. We're ready to get into game number 2. Now, me and Rebel, we were talking about it. Game number 1 was a fun one. Seeing how things go, seeing how the matchup is. I'm very curious because we talked a bit about GVU before we went into the break. Does the side of Western Legends look to change anything up too much? I mean, there were a couple things that I could think of that were probably rough for them, but me personally, I was a little bit scared with the fact that Winston didn't get to have any early aggression. He was 0-0-0 for like the first 15 minutes. That's not something you normally see from him.
I think that when it comes to how they planned to play a game like this and their setup of the bottom side of the map, they drafted for it and then they played for it and they did exactly what you would anticipate them to do. Their one problem to me was that they sacked a little too much in mid lane and also in top lane, which is their one concern. So when it comes to deciding about how you manage out a blue side draft here for Western in game number 2, you have to find a way to somehow, in some manageable way, grab yourself a little more agency in both of your solo lanes. Because if those are more neutral, like if Meslo doesn't get going very quickly, or if you have even just a little bit more pushing power out of one of them, you could potentially even throw a wrench into the game plan of Kolthro, where the Karthus is this hard scaling pick, and if you can get him, at least a little bit annoyed in the jungle, more so than the last game, then I think things start to topple earlier in the game for GVU. That makes it more difficult for them to be really competitive, to drop 50% health altering fight, ultimates from the Karthus from Kolthro onto this entire Western squad, right? So to me, that's where they can break it. These solo lanes to me are where I'm really paying attention to see what Western wants to do for game 2, because I don't anticipate them going away from playing towards Gorica and Lynx.
Game 2 is where any adaptations can be made if you want, but one adaptation that's not being made is we have same sides. So we are seeing bans coming in now between these two teams. Does Western Legends put the same prio on Caitlyn if it's not banned?
It's a good question. I don't think in the last game they had much of a problem with the Caitlyn and Lux bottom lane. They actually might. Like I said, I don't think their problem in that game at all was playing towards Gorica and Lynx. I think they played to that basically as well as they could have. It's just that they bled elsewhere a little bit too much. So if the Caitlyn is still available and it's an option for them to be able to take, I wouldn't be shocked if Western Legends just said, "Yep, let's grab it up. Let's get Gorica back into that same groove, and let's continue to play down towards our star player."
You know what? Lynx looked like a star inside that last game too, so keep my eyes peeled. AIRREN might be looking at his team inside a draft here and just saying like, hey guys, I really just don't want to play against either Caitlyn or Lutz. Please not again. He was getting bullied pretty hard, man.
He was, or at minimum, okay, they banned out the Caitlyn. The alternative was to maybe get something a little different in the bottom lane to play against the Caitlyn with, to try something. I know, Jhin isn't a perfect solution, but at least helps neutralize the lane a little bit more, because I think it's harder with, the range of Jhin, with the CC of Jhin, to at least attack the Caitlyn and the Lux in the earlier stages, or maybe, you can't go melee support. I know defense for the Jinx was imperative, but again, if you have Tahm Kench, you're getting bullied most of the time anyway, so there's no way for you to make a counter attack at all. And maybe GVU makes that slight adaptation as well. But of course, with the Caitlyn ban, they don't have to worry about it nearly as much, as it should be a little bit more even of a footing. I love the respect ban towards Kolthro's Karthus here, because that was a pretty menacing thing. Even though he's a farming jungler and he was trying to get onto late game itemization territory, he still had a couple of solid effects in the beginning of the game. Being able to set Prankuru ahead on the Ornn to start off the game was really impactful for making sure DrCalculus didn't have the kind of impact you'd want in the Gangplank, or setting him into a good foot to scale for later stages.
First pick coming in. Not going to be able to grab that Caitlyn this time around. What is Western Legends? What do they have in mind? And Gangplank is sitting on their mind.
Yeah, I mean, it's a situation where, if you are anticipating that Prankuru is not going to go for something to specifically punish the Gangplank on its own, maybe you have a feeling specifically that this is just a very blanket top lane pick. You're going to go for it anyway. You might as well take it B1, because you're okay, we need time to try to figure out the rest of our composition. And this buys you a moment to see what Grandview is going to do with the remainder of their draft. You grab up the Ahri. It's a great pick. I think it does similar things again to the Zed, with the ability to assassinate and pick out single targets inside of a fight. A lot of mobility as well for Meslo to be able to abuse. Doesn't have the same, I think, kind of early game ability to make an impact like the Zed against the Victor did, but obviously still something that I think is incredibly valuable for Meslo to have. And immediately as well, the Viego, which was banned in the last game, and also incredible for Kolthro. Basically, the reason they were able to kind of turn around the late game they had against San Diego last week against the Karthus pick was just off of Kolthro's incredible plays.
Yeah, Ardes did a fantastic job breaking into what Kolthro was able to do on this Viego. And now we're going to get to see it live and in action here and do or die moments of the game. Winston is on the Volibear duty yet again. And with the mid lane locked in, hey, it's an easy vets for Loyal.
To me, this is like the champion to be able to define a situation like this, where you've got Loyal doesn't need a bunch of resource to be fine in the mid lane. You've got ways to try to punish the Ahri in the one-on-one, and your ultimate gets you into mid-game skirmishes or early game skirmishes a lot faster to be able to make an impact, as well as that CC from the passive just makes Vex a very, very attractive champion when you aren't even necessarily playing towards it, and if you do, it can take over games. It's incredibly valuable for its damage as well. The response, of course, now for the top lane. No bottom lane's taken yet. We're trying not to avoid this from both teams, just like dancing around the problem from the previous game, is the Camille counter into DrCalculus's Gangplank. That Prankuru now is going to be taking a little bit more of the carry potential for himself, not going to the Ornn, not going for something very lane stalling, but instead wants to play aggressively into the champion.
Wants to be as aggressive as can be, and I don't blame him after the last game. And oh my gosh, look at all these AD carries away in this second ban phase. The pool has been pinched, I would say.
Yeah, Xayah off the board. I do wonder if we even start poking into like Varus and Ashe territory, especially with some of these things taken away, and whether or not Xayah pops back up, because Gorica played it a bunch, even though it got nerfed in the previous patch as well. AIRREN wanting defense. This actually tells me that they are going for extreme safety on bottom side, but not just that, but maybe that Pluto can start roaming. I know our desk talked about that in their first segment, is Pluto's ability to impact the map. This Ezreal might buy more time for them to be able to do so, because the Ezreal means they're not going to be pressured as much. AIRREN is going to be able to play a lot more defensively, a lot safer back off the wave. Makes it a lot harder to try to punish with. Gorica. This is Gorica, man. Gorica is.
Gorica's ready, man. He's ready. Popping out the Vayne inside of game number 2. See what the support to pair with it. I do want to bring up Pluto does have the Nautilus left available this time. Ooh. There it is. Enchanter, Lulu, Vayne. Yeah, for Western Legends.
It's a really interesting pickup because you have a lot of potential lane dominance. You've got good damage coming through from the Lulu in the very early stages. You prevent any sort of like tank from trying to throw disruption in, and you can usually match any kind of roaming to come through. And I think if you go for something roaming here, GVU could go for something to match it, or something maybe for more lane strength. I'm not as big a fan of the Nautilus as I was the Yuumi, mostly because I think like the Yuumi and the Ezreal scaling up together on the bottom side of the map is perfectly fine into the Lulu, who should be staying in lane more than making a bunch of roams. If you go for something like Rakan on Western Legends, then you can go for something like Nautilus that can punish the 2v2 or match that roam potential coming out from Lynx on the other side, but it's not going to be the case. Instead, they play for double lane. I like the idea of Lynx potentially having a lot of potential poke damage and setting up this Vayne for a very powerful laning phase into an Ezreal who just wants to sit and scale. As Gorica, this is a different look. Normally, a Caitlyn is like, okay, we're going to take tower plates, we're going to do as much as we can, but Gorica, if you load gold to him, now can try to just flat out 1v5 fights against a couple of melee champions in front of him, as long as he's able to avoid some of the damage from AIRREN and Meslo.
I mean, Rebel, like, think about last game. Caitlyn took 2 plates without any jungle assistance. Like, right off the get-go, no Herald needed, nothing like that. They were able to get a full tower with no Herald in the bot lane. That just speaks to the dominant set Gorica and Lynx were able to apply with that Caitlyn Link. And like you said, it's a completely different matchup between these two. The question for me is, does Western Legends continue to pile resources? Do they play around this Vayne Lulu in the bot lane, or is this the call for Winston to move some of his resources elsewhere?
So I think that bot lane after last game, you're comfortable leaving on an island if you're Western Legends, and especially with the Lulu at the beginning of the game against the Nautilus. Like, yes, you've got some engage potential to deal with, but by level 6, that's going to go away. And worst case scenario, you just leave the Vayne against the Ezreal, and you just make sure the rest of the map doesn't fall apart, because if it's solo versus solo, like the Ezreal is going to feel good, but the Vayne is going to feel even better with the solo experience and things going into her pocket. And so, to me, for Western, you don't have to lean really heavily into ganking and setting up for turret plates on bottom side nearly as much, because the game should be slower paced with the Ezreal as well. And that means I'd rather see Winston and even Lynx to some extent actually attack towards Loyal, breaking the Vex out so you can start focusing on these skirmishes, focusing on this long range engage to punish a number of the champions on GVU. That like you could start to take over the map a lot more. If you break Loyal out and you shut out Meslo, the map starts to fall to pieces, and then you've got a Gangplank that starts getting going, a Vayne that starts getting going, and the snowball never really stops.
It becomes an avalanche, right? And you have to try and make way, because the avalanche doesn't stop. There's no way to be able to stop it once it gets to that point. And once it has that momentum, what do? the thing is, we've seen teams actually have a little bit of an advantage against GVU, and we've seen time and time again. Kolthro's Viego has been something you don't sleep on. Kolthro is a master at being able to pilot this champion, get into these flanks, and that's something I do get a little bit worried about, right? Like, if you find yourself in a situation where Lulu doesn't have eyes on you, the wild growth has already been expended, what do you do to stop the Viego from getting into the backline? What do you stop the Camille from just hookshotting in and using that headset ultimatum to single out a single target to make it to where they continuously just pump that damage into one key member of Western? It becomes a little bit of a concern.
It truly does. I think Kolthro's got a lot of agency to work with here in a game like this, being able to play the top side. So I'm excited to see, because again, he was the linchpin that really helped to drive them into a very satisfying second game win against San Diego on specifically this pick. I think he's well versed at it. I think he can have enough impact to deny some of the early game from Western Legends as well, if he so chooses, or if he's able to pick out where it comes from. So GVU, they've got themselves a bit of a task ahead of themselves. They're playing against Gorica on Vayne. They're playing against, once again, the Volibear here for Winston, but they've set themselves up for some success, hoping the Ezreal is going to be what's necessary, and the Viego is going to be enough as well.
Do or die for Grandview University, while Western Legends looking to punch their ticket into top 8 here between these two teams. Let's know with Twitch chat who you got. Who are you cheering for between these two teams? You going for Western Legends, or are you going for Grandview? As these two teams looking to fight it out to the bitter end here.
We have such incredible lane-to-lane kind of like interactions here between everybody. It's a little bit wild. I was wondering if they're actually going to go for the early camp here between these two. They should have the damage to be able to do it. And it might actually just be the Vayne and the Lulu snagging that one away. No, they're actually going to walk away from it. Okay, that's a little bit interesting. I was hoping they would take the camp or try. I know it spawns late, but I was like, are they really going to do that? Are they like give up like pressure in like the first wave against the Nautilus and Ezreal just to grab that camp up for the Vayne? But no, they're not going to do anything shenanigans instead. They're just going to walk away. They're just chilling around that bottom side, making sure there's no late invade around the bottom edge towards that red buff.
Don't need Krug diff, just need Glitter Lance diff. As you can see, Link's already putting a little bit of aggression onto Pluto's. Pluto does have that glacial augment as well. So those Anchor Toss, those dredge lines, man, they are going to be able to be a very crippling thing for Gorica to have to deal with. This is a very short range composition too, when you think about the fact that Gorica has to get into range, and that's exactly what the Nautilus wants his Vayne.
For the laning phase, at least in considerations of the 2-on-2 exclusively, the real difference maker is actually Lynx on the Lulu. Lynx is an ADC player, like by trade for the most part, kind of swapped because of the talent that was around him at Western Legends here this year specifically, and so has adapted to the new role in a number of different ways. And this is a champion that is a little bit different than what you normally see in the pool of some people who are switching for the first time. You often see like Nautilus and Thresh and champions that are really kind of basic to be able to operate in the laning phase. Lulu has a lot different margins to be able to work with here. So Lynx, a little bit of confidence, putting a bunch of faith in himself to be able to help out. This laning phase can go very differently if it's good performance from Lynx, who had a great game last game, versus a bad performance where like that bottom lane could fall to pieces, and then the backbone of your composition kind of falls apart for Western.
Yeah, Lulu, very pivotal. Also, looking over at the solo lanes, I'm keeping my eyes peeled. We keep panning over to like that Gangplank Camille, and I'm just like, okay, who's gonna get that first little bit of an edge? Because we have all seen what happens when a Camille is able to get an advantage and is able to start roaming around the map, hook shotting into the mid lane, and making life just miserable for this Vets is a very real possibility that they're gonna have to keep their eyes peeled. We do have a little bit a technical difficulty, by the way, so just a slight pause and we'll be right back into the action. But I'm really excited to see what this squad is going to do, especially with their solo lanes in these interesting matchups.
It's interesting because GVU have set themselves up where like it is now Kolthro who feels like the crux of their composition, being able to get resets from like Ahri catches, from like you said, ultimates from the Camille, and Ezreal delivering DPS over the course of the fight to be able to set up this Viego to go crazy inside of engagements. But the laning phase is what you have to be curious about, because again, Kolthro is a bit more what I would call like just a little bit slower when it comes to impacting lanes directly. I think he's good at doing so, but he doesn't always make that immediate kind of decision as Prankuru. It's a nice trade, trying to take advantage of this Camille matchup. Again, last game we saw, and consistently we see a lot of tank or weak side matchup for Prankuru. In this game, puts the hammer down and says, no, I'm going to bully this guy.
Yeah. Prankuru has that at night as well, right? Has that difference. and is a very scary member to keep our eyes posted on. You can see Kolthro looking deep on the hunt, on the prowl. This is a flashless Gangplank, and DrCalculus, he's doing the math. He knows Kolthro's up here.
Ooh.
Is it going to be him stopping the back? Yes, it is. The barrels will come out. Calculus looking to try and see if he can wade the storm. Meslo looking to come as well.
Engagement.
There we go. Going to engage. Teleport comes in. First blood over to Kolthro.
Yeah, the tower, unfortunately, not able to be shuffled, so that final shot falls onto Prankuru. Instead, Vex, the mid laner here, is not able to actually get anything. Loyal gets away with nothing. As Calculus, again, the setup is good. You got 3 minions here. Calculus wants to break this with the barrel, and unfortunately just can't. It tries to also slow them down at the very end. I didn't catch that. I was wondering why the barrel wasn't tried to use to kill the minions off to get faster aggro, but it looks like the intention was believing that they would go so far into the tower that the slow would be enough to maybe catch one of them off guard. But again, Prankuru didn't need to burn the hook shot. Instead, just a well-executed dive from Grandview onto the part of the map that, again, this is the least experienced member, I would say, inside of competitive play for Western Legends. They are punishing DrCalculus. Again, he was swapped in the middle of the split for Grovey, who played most of the regular season for them. So not only that, but again, also most of these other players on this Western roster have been playing in collegiate or in some other kind of competitive space for a consistent amount of time. And Grandview trying to take advantage of that.
Ludo's looking for some supportal combat in the pod side. Looking to just press this aggression, stop the recall from the Lulu, and drop the Lulu. So very close to the cusp of death, but this is rough. Lynx isn't going to be able to reset now.
Nope. It's going to be a bad situation. Now, you do have at least a little bit of something, because you have almost the Berserker Greaves completed for the Vayne off of this back. You didn't lose a ton of the wave, but you're still down a little bit, probably about 1 wave of experience. And GVU looks like they're actually shifting into the Dragon, which they're just using the timer, of course, of Lynx actually being pushed out of the bottom lane and Vayne being the only one around with no jungler, I think, also. Yeah, but Lynx has stopped his back. Gorica is in the river. They're bringing multiple members. It's a 4-on-4.
Gorica looking for the engagement. Flash over the wall. The dredge line didn't hit, but it's okay. Got the roots, got the smacks. And Meslo finds the kill. Lynx drops, and another dredge line. This time connecting on the Gorica. He will find himself falling victim to the aggression of GVU. AIRREN trying to shoot out some missed shots. Loyal finds the kill, but Meslo still throwing out charms. Orbs are flying left and right, but Western Legends are ultimately coming out ahead as Pluto has to make his escape.
Goodness gracious, beginning of the fight. Pluto's going to get slowed down. They might actually have enough from Loyal if he's got the mana for it. No, okay, the hook is finally going to get Pluto out of a bad situation. As the TP's coming in, they're going to try to punish. The overstays here.
Check this out. He's going to be able to catch out Winston. The charm hits. The bear finds it unbearable, but the shield is there. Oh, the blast cone. Oh, the misery. Winston caught out of position, and Meslo gets the kill.
Who autoed that? Because I thought Loyal might have autoed that. And it was there's going to be some choice words in the chat from Winston, unfortunately.
We got to replay.
This is a crazy situation. So first off, watch Gorica, because he flexes right here on Pluto, dodging the hook out, and then eating AIRREN to stall the bottom side of the fight long enough for the reinforcements to come in. Unfortunately, they're not able to save Lynx because his health bar's too low, didn't actually get the back off. Pluto on a second hook kind of stalling things as well. But it gives enough time and enough damage for the 2-on-2 or the 4-on-4, I guess, all things considered, to end up going very heavily in the direction of Western Legends here, which was a little shocking because they were the ones preventative before the back from the Lulu head coming in. It's a Vayne without even first boots or first item completed whatsoever, and just over chasing a little bit. But ultimately, they were up a kill in this fight. They could have walked away. The Dragon did end up going over. There's no way to stop that. This is the situation. I want to see who autoed it.
Yeah, I'm zooming in. Enhance.
Okay, it was Meslo. Okay, I thought it was Loyal. I know the Q had come out, but I thought the auto afterwards was what caught him out. And I was like, no way Loyal just did that to Winston, unfortunately. But it's not the case. Instead, just ends up being the 3-for-3 and the Dragon going to Grandview. Well, it could have been at least a winning kill situation from Western Legend thrown again off the back of that, but still, incredible play to set it up in the first place.
Incredible indeed. And now Grandview sitting up in the kills. Got themselves a dragon out of it as well. Kolthro looking to make his way up to the top side of the map, seeing if he can grab his red buff, get his camps, and get himself onto the map yet again. Well, you see, it's just looking to go around the map, trying to find angles. Meslo, he's not going to be able to be spotted out. And he's level 6, man. That's a hard lane to gank.
Really is. Not to mention, of course, like in terms of wave clear breakpoints, Meslo is on the Lost Chapter and has the Doran's Ring. It's the Amp Tome, but also the Merc Creds for defense against the damage. But it means that Meslo's impact against specifically the minions is going to be a lot greater than what Loyal's is. So that means that Meslo can make more of an impact on the Ahri than what you would be at if you went for just pure AP from Loyal's side to be able to match what Meslo brings out. So that's at least something notable. It's whether Meslo is going to be able to take advantage of that and start making an effect with Kolthro across the map. A second objective has spawned. Kolthro's on it very quickly on his lonesome. He has the push from Prankuru, so this isn't really that threatening. And again, Meslo can jump off this wave. Look how quickly he's going to clear this comparative to Loyal. Just throwing extra damage into Meslo because there's no resistance on the Ahri, but you can see the impact is held. When the minions are getting pushed there and the minions are pushed out in top lane, Kolthro takes a free objective. But they could even set up potentially for another play onto the top side against DrCalculus if Kolthro doesn't go down here.
Didn't check the bush. Number 2 checks it this time. Meslo sees it this time, so they're like, okay, they knew that we were coming this entire time. Just an immediate press, adding more pressure to the top lane.
This is interesting because they might have been able to be a little bit more patient. I'm not sure if they were tracking Loyal's TP, but that's not back up yet. So worst case scenario, it's just DrCalculus showing up. And they probably could have peeled off 1 plate before doing that and dropping 3 off that top tower. It might have had to be split between Kolthro and Prankuru. But they decide that that's not the case. Instead, they want to keep up map pressure by being the first ones off the map after the Rift Herald gets dropped. So instead, they just take their 2 free plates. They end up getting a bit of push. DrCalculus isn't able to shove out nearly as much as I think he would have wanted. It allows Prankuru to not have to burn TP to get back to top lane. So again, resources around the map being saved from Grandview just to make sure, in exchange for maybe what could have been a little bit more gold off the back of that Rift Herald throw.
Yeah, you can even see from the player gold, even though the gold lead isn't super immense at this current stage of the game, you can see that it is all around. GVU is sitting at a very healthy amount of gold in between each of their individual members. As you see Winston, he's gotten a little bit more of that early aggression this time around. This is something that I was talking about going in before we had that break, getting ourselves ready for game number 2. I wanted to see more of this. This is more of the aggression. This is more of the Volibear getting out onto the map. Last game didn't get to see that. This is feeling a little bit more traditional than what you can expect to Winston.
Okay. And now you can see Lynx is starting to poke into the mid lane as well as Winston, trying to punish Meslo, trying to get Loyal into a better position. Not to mention captured control of this bottom side of the map. They know the Rift Herald was put down. There's also a control ward here, so every bit of information necessary for Grandview to know that this is going to be a play from Western Legends. And they jump off the wave with Loyal, so he's just going to sack at least a little bit of pressure here, as well as Kolthro's potential setup towards the top side of the map as a response to this, so we'll keep track of that as well. As a bit is traded back, but again, they're just making sure the dragon count is even. Wow, that damage has had work put into it. Prankuru got another plate. So he got the first one, the Rift Herald got 2 and 3, he got a 4th, and now he's going to get probably the 5th in full tower because of Kolthro's hover off that dragon play. So Western Legends, their top laner is getting punished. This is what I wanted them to do from the beginning of the game on the side of Grandview. I'm glad they're adapting to it.
Nice dredge line, the artillery firing, but isn't going to be effective to stop the retreat from Grandview. They find safety, and they can't get anything out of it. They just force him off for a couple plates maybe here. I don't even know if they can get all of that. Winston's here in the flank. He does stop his recall. Aaron's able to get back into the wave. Dredgeline connects onto the Volibear. Wentworth trying to see if he can get over Winston. It is going to be able to skip the true shot. Doesn't hit, but it's not going to stop the chase from Kolthro. He will be dissuaded by the Glitter Lance. Grandview looking aggressive to punish.
The biggest difference here between this game and last game is that last game, Grandview felt like they weren't really pushing for any kind of advantage with the Karthus. Instead, they were mostly leaning into just the scaling of their composition kind of yielding itself, and then Meslo, of course, was on something he could perform individually with. And then Western was pushing into bot lane. This game, they're still putting some resources into bot side, but not nearly as many, and Grandview has completely won top side off the back of some pressure from Kolthro into that top lane matchup between the Camille, which is already good, into the Gangplank for Prankuru. It's a great and different look from Grandview. They've made an adaptation of style for the early game.
There's the Ignite. DrCalculus is going to take a lot of damage. Sweep the legs. Calculus able to escape of his nice life after some fancy footwork.
He's down incredibly right now in terms of the one-on-one matchup. Like, he's got the sheet and he's got a crystal. Now he's got, of course, a little bit of cooldown as well with the Kindle gem. But, like, it's a full Trinity Force and an extra longsword for Prankuru. Like, this Camille is set so dramatically far ahead of the Gangplank right now off the back of this early ganking. And again, the one thing that was really missing from Grandview was that early game, last game, didn't feel like it was anything except for Meslo's individual play that set them into a good position. And now you don't have quite the scaling of the Karthus, but you do still have, of course, a number of things to be able to load into into your later stages to work with, trying to get the reset central on Viego when the composition comes together. Prankuru is going to be a big part of that. So not only an early game advantage to fight with around some of the neutral objectives coming up here in the next couple of minutes, but also being able to have a additional setup for the team fight that you're looking for at the end of things.
It kind of gives me some flashbacks to watching some of the MAC games where it's just like it's a Prankuru diff where the Prankuru just goes ham in the top side, is playing things like the Camille that we see here, the Gwen, stuff like that, playing ever so aggressive. Calculus is trying to just get Grant, man. He just wants this consolation prize, but it's just the mist. The mist is here to stop him from doing anything. Meslo's here to assist as well. Doesn't get it though. It is a kill secured for Prankuru.
And the push on the other side of the map is going to drive off the Ezreal and the Nautilus, but they've been more than fine on their lonesome, right? Like, they're matching. In fact, they're ahead in terms of farm. The Vayne has only matched the plates that are taken between the two bottom towers, and Loyal hasn't really gotten ahead. In fact, he's down pretty bad to just Meslo's individual Ahri performance right now. And it's yielded this situation in which GVU is just kind of winning everywhere on the map, just off the back of top lane pressure being put on, and Western Legends not being able to take full advantage of the Vayne lane, not being able to get Gorica into a position where he can like full out teamfight. The one position it looked good in was really that bot side skirmish around the dragon, where he was able to flex some of the individual skill. But you can see, not going to matter. Haven't been able to put themselves in that situation for a long time, and GVU continuing to bear down in the top side.
They're putting their pressure down. They know this is where they have their lead, and I love this. You see this immediately. Kolthro goes back down to the bot side and says, all right, yo, I'm here with you guys now. What's up? What do you need? They get some vision cleared. They're getting control over this dragon pit. GVU feel like they are in the driver's seat inside this game.
The loss of mid push, which I think was really important. Meslo's been able to have a lot more control over that than what Loyal has over the course of the couple of games, have led to more topside pressure, but also the ability of Kolthro to now start to like walk and inch his way into the opposing jungle to push back vision. Right there was actually a good dragon setup. They've got 40 seconds till it comes up. They're going to grab the Rift Herald. The question really comes to Western is like, okay, do you go to the dragon? Because I feel like GVU is willing to check you at that dragon, right? They've got the setup for it already there. You're going to have to push out their setup. They're going to have the Rift Herald as well, so they get their cup runneth over on the side of GVU right now with what they want to do. They could drop Rift Herald mid and just let it crush the tower and then walk into river, or they could just like put it on the other side of the map, maybe track it like an inhibitor tower or something in the top lane if they really opted for it, or go fight you, because they are ahead pretty significantly right now inside of this game.
Well, they are doing just like you were just talking about, Rebel. They are putting down the Herald in the mid lane. They are letting Shelly do her business, and now it is just a fight trying to catch out Kolthro. Wentworth, Winston doing a good job for himself, getting a good bit of zoning off, but they have the inside trap. Meslo looking for some Prankuru's over here onto the side, gets caught out of position, is rooted and CC'd for so long. The True Shot Barrage hits its member, but it is Prankuru who's just pinned up against the wall. He is condemned for his egregious actions, and now it's Meslo trying to use the Spirit Rush to disengage. A nice tag from Loyal, debating on to go in or not. Will not decide to follow up with it, and now it is a skirmish around the dragon pit as Winston is so low in HP. He cannot contest this. Even though they have the numbers advantage, they cannot find their way in. Now it's Western Legends trying to see if they can push in. Now that there's a little bit more HP onto the Volibear. Nice charm. Loyal, though, finds the kill, and now it is the dragon secured. Kolthro gets it, but what did you have to sacrifice in the meantime?
GVU, they are able to wrestle away control of the pit. They're able to try to generate a fight for themselves, but they don't win it. Western Legends wins both sides of the engagement, and it is the dragon in their back pocket. But again, this isn't third dragon. They can't force in the next situation to get it. Oh, Gorica wants it. He wants to smoke!
Yeah, he's got the fort. Woo, the charm doesn't connect. Gorica, you were talking about it earlier, Rebel. Fancy footwork. Gorica is ready to present that on full display.
It is very unfortunate that he picked up none of the kills in that fight because he was going crazy. Prankuru wants the punishment. This is rough. Lynx has no ultimate. The W is the only thing that can be used to save the Vayne in this case. Uh-oh.
Yep. Souffles go in, get the slow. Polymorph has been used. The hookshot can now be used as an ultimatum. Lynx is able to survive the TPs there. What a punish. The damage was unexpected.
So Gorica has received no income this game for the most part, no bonus income this game, right? And he is still going crazy on this Vayne pick, which is terrifying to think of. That last fight really brought Loyal back into the ability to play a game like this.
That's Calculus. Seeing difference. By the charm, eats an orange. It's okay. But hey, yo, Calculus, is going to... He actually escapes this. He's out clean. Nobody cut off the escape.
Well played. Coming out from, again, DrCalculus a couple of times now that Grandview has been able to find, like, they're looking for Meslo to be in different areas. They were looking to try to punish off of everything that Western was doing from the Dragon timer, but none of it has come to fruition. And so the gold lead has actually been pinched pretty crazy. Bottom side turret ends up getting taken right here. I think that went into Loyal's pocket as well. So great position to be in right now as Western Legends. They found themselves a little bit of breathing room. They're down 4K. Grandview, if they win the fight around Dragon, that almost feels like it's a full-out, like, full control of the game situation. They are the ones winning the game. But now, Western Legends has struck back. They've got gold where they needed it to be. The Dragons aren't completely out of control at this point. They're still standing gold in a couple of areas, and they're scaling. They're getting to the right position.
Talk about scaling. There's somebody that's a very fearsome foe on the other side, and that's Loyal on this Vets. 3-0-3 on the champion, and is popping off in a lot of these team fights. We have Prankuru looking for the play onto DrCalculus, but the Wild Growth has been used. Depth charge as well. They are putting all their resources down onto this Gangplank. They will eventually and surely get him and the Lulu as a consolation.
They do. They grab up both. They're able to finally find something. And a teleport to the top side means as well that Loyal's not going to be able to find anything. So it's defense of their own waves, defense of the top wave going down, and an exchange of 2 kills, as well as the bottom tower going over for Grandview, as they find a really nice strike to kind of recapitalize and recapture a lot of the gold that they had lost around that fight. Once again, Western Legends seems like when they're skirmishing, when they're fighting, their individual prowesses are coming onto full display. But outside of that, Grandview's been dancing around them this game. They are the ones that have been making the aggressive macro moves that have really cost a fair amount of the early game from Western Legends, really set themselves up for a good situation inside of a game like this. The more often that this happens from GVU, where they're the ones kind of setting the map state and then being able to punish it, the more often we've seen Grandview have a lot of success here. And I feel like Western at this point really are just looking to continue to set up fights. Even when they're down gold, having the performances they have been really incredible. That's all they need to do, is just try to generate big 3-on-3 or even more massive skirmishes between the two teams, because that's where their bread and butter really has been in this game.
I like the idea, too, that you were talking about just a moment ago about the gold lead shifting. It started to close in, and now it's back to where it was before that fight happened, right? Like, Grandview is able to grab that gold lead, and it's a testament to what this game is right now. There's some scaling, there's some damage, there's some resources for Western Legends. They're able to pick up team fights, but it's Grandview who finds these scrappy moments that are in their advantage. Now it's Winston getting caught out of position. The dredge line comes in. They are chaining the CC so effectively, but Volibear is such a chunky bear. He's going to be absolutely fine holding all that damage.
Has links behind him as well, so not too crazy. But again, just talking about like grand scope of things right now, Baron setup is here for Grandview. You think about what they've been able to accomplish with their new coach, what they've been able to accomplish with Draher, the fact that he assembled this roster on his lonesome, knowing the players that he wanted to be able to bring in and have full control of this roster, and putting together, I know as you lovingly put it, the power of friendship, but more specifically, the kind of cohesion that you work with in a team of 5 like this is definitely coming together. The communication and the understanding of what their map needs to look like a number of times has definitely been on display very heavily from Grandview. And it's why in a round of 16 matchup like this, Travis, that we talk about these teams being so close and how we could have seen this later in the tournament. They're both incredible teams, right? Like they're absolutely insane. Both of them have very big reason why they can win a series like this and even take it further into the tournament. Why seeing them here this early is just a treat for everybody watching, because competition continues to increase in collegiate.
So looking for the possible flame, but Western Legends not going to bite on the bait. They recognize it as such, and will do just that. Dragon has spawned, and Vayne is already on top of it, and Gorica will be able to melt that. That will be second dragon for Western Legends, but check out the play on the other side of the map. Grandview's going for Baron.
Yeah, they spotted the blue. They were able to take it out. Now they're going to be able to hold the entrance. They don't full commit to the Baron.
Just immediately ults away, disengages it immediately. They wanted the pick. They couldn't find any of the key members they wanted. A nice retreat coming from Western Legends. They're able to not drop. Nice true shot barrage, but it's just a little bit of a skirmish, a little bit of a AIRREN-ish game here, as just kind of dancing around each other in the mid lane, bouncing between the neutral objectives.
that was a big stumble from Grandview because they wanted to set up a position where they could bait for Baron and try to opt into a fight where, like, Western Legends has to blind peek into the river, right? But instead, they give up all of their bot side pressure, so they lose the Dragon. Now the Dragon stacking is 2-2 apiece, as well as compounding the fact that they couldn't even really test the Baron. If they wanted to full commit to it and go for a fight around the Baron pit, since Gorica was going to be incredibly late, I think they could have full committed to that idea. Instead, they waited at the entrance and they kind of just, like, full pulled off the Baron and prevented themselves from fully capitalizing on the play that they had set up, which was so weird for me. Because again, if they full commit to the Baron and they just kite back to it, and then members like Prankuru, who were on it the entire time, like AIRREN that were on it the entire time, start to DPS the members at the front, it feels like Western Legends maybe don't expect that type of damage, don't expect that type of control, but instead, now it's just a little bit of pressure taken off of Western Legends. If it's third Dragon for Grandview, they can force a fight with this gold advantage around the next Dragon that comes up, but instead, you gotta wait 10 more minutes to actually do something like that.
Teleport is up for all solo laners as you see a little bit of the splitting of the map begin to occur. Winston has that hourglass on the Volibear, looking to make a play and go golden afterwards. Kolthro in a interesting situation. Pluto's the one that gets jumped onto. Camille gets bot tower, but it will be answered with in kind, with a mid tower being dropped in favor of Western Legends.
Prankuru really wants to try to push the side lane advantage that he's had up against DrCalculus the whole game. 2 levels of advantage. A lot of
go. Engagement. Fear hits onto Pluto. Nice depth charge, but it is going to be Pluto, the tribute for the team. And now it's Western Legends continuing in hot pursuit. AIRREN gets shut down, and Grandview get routed in the mid lane. But yet again, at what cost? The inhibitor is being knocked upon by
Gorica.
Camille. Meslo looking for the cat, doesn't find it. Instead, gets stunned, get knocked up, gets shut down. Loyal finds himself the kill, and it is the Ahri dropping yet again as Prankuru is trying to have an impact here around inside of the nets. But Baron is up, and it is being secured by Western Legends. Can Kolthro do it? He jumps forward. Teleport's coming in. Kolthro is deeply outmatched, outnumbered. Loyal will be able to possibly find him. No, a nice jump over the wall, and this is just Baron secure.
They lost their bottom side inhibitor. Again, Prankuru, I think, making the optimal call here. There's almost no way after that mid lane play goes so awry for Grandview University that there's a way to compete. So instead, they pull off the bottom side inhibitor. That wave is going to naturally push when there's no one there applying the Baron buff. And it means that the next Dragon is something that Grandview can actually stand to be able to contest against in the right circumstances as Western Legends finally take advantage of the range of engagement from Loyal and from Winston in this game to find a way to get Pluto, to find a way to get AIRREN after all things, even though all the defensive Ezreal were available. It burnt all of them and still couldn't get out away from this Western Legend squad. And it now yields them both a gold advantage and the Baron buff to set up their map. So maybe they can look to be the ones around the Dragon. The setup is there for them. But again, bot lane is the thing I'm looking at, where like Grandview will have a perm pushing bot lane, which means they have access at all times to the Dragon if they decide to go for a fight.
A bit of an engage. Winston looking to jump onto Kolthro. It's just a little bit to deter him. Give him a little bit of reminder. Say he'll fight him with his bare hands any day of the week. It's Winston looking to just rekindle this Dragon, as you were talking about, spawning in about a minute's time. And Prankuru is having none of it. He just wants to press the aggression further in the top side. Lynx is here in the side. DrCalculus is here as well. There's Meslo, the charm to connect. And the Wild Grove ain't enough to save DrCalculus.
Okay, so the 2 members that are a biggest threat, though, to Gorica are on the other side of the map. So you find a kill, you get him out, right? The other side of the map, Gorica was there just a second ago, I think full back because he was afraid that the full collapse would come in from Kolthro and Pluto wouldn't be able to outplay that situation. But it did lead to the bottom lane getting pushed out far enough that Grandview has a harder time trying to access that. When the Baron buff gets applied to the mid wave here, they're going to be able to push this out. So again, Prankuru's side lane pressure is really all GVU has been able to apply over the last maybe 5 to 10 minutes of the game in terms of drawing Western Legends away. They're going to go for a play on a Pluto again.
They're looking to try and collapse onto him. And nice damage onto him. But look at Loyal going for the play. This Ezreal is so low, but he's able to live throughout all of it. Prankuru is getting his HP decimated. Gorica is on the way, but he goes golden. A beautiful fear. Pluto drops nets. AIRREN trying to see what he can do, but it's a double kill. Going over the Gorica's Western Legends answer back. The charm can connect, but the aggression continues. Western Legends are pushing in for an inhibitor in the mid lane.
And off the back of an incredible performance from Loyal, who's been able to utilize this Vex despite the early laning phase that went against him, to be able to actually come back and skirmish with this pick, to be able to be this full-on engagement, this threat to the backline, to drive off Grandview when their front line is already engaged, has been humongous. And Western Legends now 3 fights in a row, being able to pull out a win, being able to turn this game back on its head, pull back the gold lead, and get themselves in a winning position all together. Now, you're sitting on 3 items on your Vayne, you're sitting on 2 items completed, 3 items completed on both of your solo laners. All of your damage is arriving in one fell swoop. And while Grandview still have ways to strike, right, you're still hoping Kolthro can pull out a miracle. You're hoping Prankuru's side lane against DrCalculus can run out to something. It feels like Western Legends have finally pulled full grasp of the game into their control, and it's theirs to lose.
Yeah, you can even see here inside this replay exactly the moment where it goes wrong. Look at AIRREN.
Yeah, he's off to the side. He's not full behind. He's not putting all of his focus, I think, necessarily into the Winston, trying to position around it. The backline as well, Prankuru tried to get something done, but look, Loyal doesn't go down. Lynx doesn't go down. I love the stopwatch as well coming out from Gorica in the midst of the fight because, again, it pulls everyone forward, and then all of your squishy people are right in front of him to be able to put damage into. This Baron buffed up team, difficult to bring down, kind of baited them forward a little bit. Well played by Gorica to be able to kind of draw their attention with that hook from Pluto and then punish them on the back end of that fight. And again, they've arrived where they've needed to. Western is finally in a position where it feels like they control the game. Gorica feels like he can straight up 1v5 in the right fight where he gets to play against individual members as they stand in front of him. And now we wait, resolute, 4 minutes timer until the Ocean Soul is available. Probably the moment of the game that Grandview is going to have to look at and say, this is where we need to hold our stand. Maybe Baron buff ahead of time in a minute 30 is a better position. Seems like they're setting up for that instead. Looking to try to make this timer work. Looking to try to find this team fight that's going to be able to net them enough advantage to climb back into position to take this game themselves.
Trying to get some scattered visions, that way they can, like you said, contest on possibly some of these. But look at this. The map is dark when you're on the side of Grandview. Western Legends doing a fantastic job negating any sight lines that they can be able to establish, making sure that fog of war is ever so foggy. And Grandview, they are in a desperate position now. True Shot Barrage used. They're trying to put on a defense for this tower, but it is gone.
Is. I love this coming out from Western as well, because this is the one part of the map that potentially Prankuru could actually catch them off guard with. Is just a push in the bottom side. So they shove it up as far as they can. They make sure they are not going to lose any kind of pressure on the bottom side anytime soon that could be used to leverage into either the Dragon or the Baron in the future for Grandview to the best of their abilities. Now they look to reset potentially, because the Baron buff's going to be up in 35 seconds. The setup isn't really there. It looks like Grandview lost a bit of the setup that they had around it just about a minute ago, somewhere in those lines. And it means that Western Legends likely on this fullback is going to be able to contest through their jungle, grab a hold of the river, and even maybe look at it themselves, right? The Baron is nothing but a pittance to a Vayne. Honestly, might be able to solo it with the itemization that is currently rocked by Gorica. Doesn't even necessarily need to. If Winston's there, it's definitely a 2-person Baron angle. With Prankuru on the bottom side, maybe that is the play. If they're doing this out of vision, there is possibility with that ward expiring, they could grab it. No one's in position for it. Yeah. Look where Meslo and AIRREN are at. They're on the other side of the map. Prankuru has the TP. This is the ultimate to check for it, but they might be late.
Yeah, they're going to be late on it, it seems. Loyal is popping away onto it. Vayne isn't even here yet, and they're laying in some more. They have to be careful about how they pursue this fight. It might be just the attempt for a steal. Prankuru is calling the bluff. Meslo is there with them as well. They're looking to see if they could possibly contest this. A steal could be very huge at this current moment in time. Vetzler's the ultimate over the wall. Does not connect with such, and they get the Volibear. The Volibear is out of the pit. He jumps back in. He gets the Baron. It is insecure. Kolthro is gone, but they have to bet. They have to TP. They're trying to make the plays that are able to happen, but they are not going to be able to Gangplank. Gangplank able to do just that, but it's the base race coming out. Grandview, they're looking to see if they can get their spot in the top 8, but no! Western Legends get the recalls to deny them.
Oh my goodness, and it teleports to the other side of the map. Everybody died in that fight around the Baron buff. They tried to go for the Hail Mary and Grandview gets shut out instead. Western Legend takes it 2-0. Competition between these two teams was incredible until the last minute. They do nothing but make this game exciting. But Western Legends, they come out the winners in the grand scheme of things. Grandview tried their damnedest. They tried everything. They made it so close the whole time. Well, Western Legends are going to be your first top 8 squad.
Yeah, you can see it. They're trying to put on the desperate defense, but it is just not enough. The damage was already done to the nets as the rest of the members are there for the photo. And while it was a 2-0, what a competitive matchup between these two collegiate squads. Both of them vying for that spot in top 8.
And I have to be honest as well. Watching Grandview in this particular game, having this kind of development with a squad like this in just a couple of months. Last year, they lost out in round of 32 way earlier than anyone thought that they were going to be able to. Right? We thought that this was even potentially going to be a top 8 squad, and they failed. They fell low of those expectations. And to be this competitive with one of the projected, like even like top 4 teams in the tournament potentially with Western, to have that kind of macro ability, to have this kind of development with a team in such a short time, really incredible from GVU. But man, Western, filthy team fighting, filthy ability to find skirmishes. Every single time they are pushing buttons, they look like the superior team, no matter how much the gold is different between the two of them. Really insatiable stuff to be able to watch from this team, expressing all that individual advantage to once again be our first team in the top 8.
First team inside of the top 8, and hey, off the back of Loyal having a great game too. Hey, it's great, it's phenomenal, and it's up to us. It's all done, but we have our desk ready to break down the action, get ourselves ready, break down everything, and get us moving forward for the rest of the day. So, gents, go ahead and take it on away.
Thank you, Travysty, and wow, what an unbelievable series. I mean, both of those games went right down to the wire, and kind of the team that you thought would win ended up losing, right? Game 1, we saw the fight in the base that got turned around. Game 2, almost the same exact scenario unfolded, but the end result is a 2-0 for Western Legends, and just, okay, let's try, and keyword try, to break down what the heck just happened in front of us. And let's start first with the draft before we get into anything else. TJ, did anything stand out to you from this draft?
Well, I loved the Karthus ban. I think playing against a champion is incredibly annoying, so huge respect for Western for just getting rid of it. It's really hard to play against. The Vayne was super interesting. I felt like the Vayne had a lot of threats to deal with, being short range, but Gorica played well, and GVU didn't execute. So those are my 2 interesting picks here.
Yeah, and I feel like we got to touch on Winston real quick, playing his 4th straight game of Volibear, and just showing that you have to respect it, right? We were having a conversation about whether he wanted to try and play something a little bit more scaling, something that has a bit more impact later on in the game, but he showed that his Volibear still has an impact regardless of how late the game goes, and that kind of resiliency with this kind of player is very impressive.
It really does feel like he's kind of got this formula down that maybe other teams haven't caught on to yet, because we're not seeing a ton of other teams pick the Volibear and play the style that he's done, but whatever he's doing is working, clearly, because Western has yet to drop a game so far in the round of 32 or the round of 16, so he's playing very well. But we do have some replays before we end up, saying goodbye to GVU. And the first replay that we're going to talk about happens pretty much at the very start of the game. TJ, I know that you really like this one, so you can take this one away.
Yeah, from GVU's perspective, I love here how they play this dive. They do want to set the Gangplank far behind in the game. It's a very easy lane to play towards with double CC chain here. And the amount of coordination that it takes to pull off things like this, we see Prankuru holding the Camille E, we see that Viego starts it, flashes out. It just has to be something that's well communicated and coordinated. So I love to see this from collegiate teams. And I think that this is kind of like the start of how they tried to create an advantage, but ultimately ended up failing.
And it feels like in general, like GVU had a very strong idea of how they wanted to play this early game out. Unfortunately, they dropped the ball a couple of times.
I think we're having some technical difficulties with Josh, if you could try reconnecting. I think we may have lost him on our feed, everybody, but trust me when I say that you wish that you heard the point he just made. It was beautiful. It was crisp. We'll see if we can get him back right away. But TJ, throwing it over to you, my friend. I mean, honestly, just an incredible sequence of events there. And the second replay, I feel like really summarizes kind of how this game was going. There was a mid-team fight that ended up occurring, and it gave Baron over to the side of Western, and then a team fight occurred afterwards that really showed how well they could utilize the Baron buff.
Yeah, I think the series came down to a battle of picks, and I want to highlight how well Western's role players played. They didn't feel like role players; they felt like very impactful members, despite being, in theory, some of the underdogs in the head-to-head matchups. And so Western played extremely well on those. I'm assuming the replay is going to come up. We can talk about the 26-minute dragon fight here, and that is where really the game kind of started to fall into Western's favor.
Yeah.
From here, we see this is kind of a long sequence of events. GVU is obviously all grouped up. They spot Winston. He's unkillable, obviously. The Nautilus not exceeding expectations in terms of what it's able to do. We see some Vex resets. AIRREN gets hit, instantly knocked down. He can't really contribute. And the Vayne condemn here against Camille is what wins the situation extremely well. Granted, we also have a stopwatch. I'm a huge stopwatch still, so I'd love to see that Gorica purchased a stopwatch instead of 2 daggers, for example. And think about the impact that stopwatch has. GVU's dive comp, where they want to Nautilus ult, they want to Camille dive onto the Vayne, simply can't do it because of how well played Gorica, or how well Gorica played the situation, and then the extra threat of the stopwatch.
Josh, now that we have you back, my friend, guide us through what the heck happened at the end of this game. It was back and forth. It was intense. What happened?
Honestly, it was pretty wild, right? If you are on the side of Grandview, you're definitely feeling as though you don't have a whole lot of options. You haven't been winning these team fights. You haven't been able to get an objective since the second or third dragon, and you kind of need to go for something. And we talked about this a little bit, TJ, as well, where it's like maybe you just send multiple people down to the bottom lane. You can teleport Ahri down for the last time the inhibitor was actually taken, and that's exactly what they go for here. It's a Hail Mary. You need to try it and find something all at once, and it was pretty darn close to actually coming to fruition. But it's the kind of thing where you know you are flipping the game right here, right now. Everybody's trying to find their last spot, and that's where that homieism really needs to take control of everything. You even see, like, AIRREN goes in, Pluto sacrifices his life just to make sure the teleport doesn't happen, but it's not enough. Everything that we've been seeing Gorica and Winston do throughout the course of the day, everything that they've been able to set up and allow the rest of their teammates to really shine throughout the entire game is looking really strong.
This backdoor was a game of inches. If maybe Ahri was a little bit closer, maybe the Nexus could have been lower HP, maybe hit the charm. GVU could have had a win there off of a call like that. So it takes some, gusto to make that play, being here on elimination. So huge respect to be able to, sit down with your friends and say, guys, we're going to commit to this. Let's stall the Baron as much as possible and try. Obviously, Western came out ahead.
Yeah, I mean, just what a back and forth series overall, and we will get a chance to actually hear from Kolthro on the side of GVU after a short break, and then we do have another interview right after Kolthro. That will be with Winston, the guy who's played 4 games of Volibear in a row, but we will throw to a short break before those interviews, so don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Welcome back, everybody. I'm joined by Grandview's jungler Kolthro, who just played, honestly, an excellent individual series. I was really impressed with it, but obviously not the result that you were looking for. First, let's start big picture. Those games were really, really scrappy and down to the wire, both of them, right? Both of them could have gone either way. Walk me through sort of who on your team is making those really tense shot call and late game decision makings in those kind of games.
Um, Actually, it kind of falls down to me usually when we're in those late game scenarios, or like those like scrappy fights where you just have to make the split decision like that, and you have to make for like just have to kind of play a flip sometimes. A lot of times that'll come down to me because I think I've a lot of these guys are new, the 4 guys I'm with, and they don't have like the experience to like know like exactly what scenarios they want to be in, but at the same time, like some people do step up in certain occasions. So like Pluto, for example, is also a big shot caller too for the team. I would say he's like secondary shot caller to my primary. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean that doesn't surprise me. Having played with Pluto for a year in collegiate, I know that he can definitely step up. But I mean, honestly, that was a game of inches, and to see you guys not come out on top in some of those is pretty tough to watch. One thing that is important to note is, as far as I'm aware, this is one of, if not the deepest run that Grandview has ever made, making it to top 16. How does it feel to be on the roster that's able to accomplish that? And what sort of thoughts do you have on that, having been on the roster for a bit?
I was actually really excited to go back to Grandview because I knew despite the result, like that we would get at the end, that I knew that I would have a fun time with these 4 guys. These 4 guys that I have, like, it's probably the most fun roster I played on. There's no drama, no beef or anything. It's just
Yeah.
we show up every day, we play. It feels good to have a decent showing. I'd say we underperformed today compared to how we usually play, especially in scrims. And like, it's unfortunate that we couldn't show our absolute best. But I do think that, like, even taking the #1 East seed, which is a regional conference, everyone likes to hype up regional conferences. As a partner conference, to take the #1 East seed is to those games of inches is an accomplishment itself.
So you said earlier that you're kind of the de facto leader of this team, being one of the most experienced people. You've been on GVU before. How does that like manifest itself in practice, in games? How do you really fill that role?
I try and be more relatable because these guys haven't had too much comp experience, so I try and be as relatable as I can. But at the same time, I try and hold them to the standard that I want them to be at. I want these guys to be able to compete at these types of levels that we're seeing today. For instance, like Meslo going off on Zed, I want him to be able to do that every single game versus the
Yeah.
best mid laners, especially in collegiate, amateur, all that. So I would say that I usually hold them to a high standard. Sometimes scrims can get a bit like heated or whatever, but obviously at the end of the day, it's just like for the betterment of the team. And I like to push these guys as hard as I can.
I think that's a great mentality to have, right? That's the kind of leader you want on a team with a bunch of young guys. So, I mean, it's really is heartbreaking to not see you guys make it further, but I think, at the end of the day, you guys know that, the potential that this roster has, and next year, after some more time, you guys could certainly make another deep run. But is there any shout outs you'd like to give, anything you'd like to say before we, wrap it up for this interview?
I'd like to say that it's like these 4 guys. I don't know if the GV roster will be the same next year, or if they'll stay, or if they'll leave. But I know these 4 guys are really talented in their own way, and all of them are very driven. And as for myself, I'll probably be just graduating in fall, so this is probably my last time competing on like
Wow.
a CUL season type stage. So honestly, like, it felt really good to be able to like take a top contender to like that game. By the way, if we were on right side of the bracket, we would have stomped all the teams. Just saying. But it felt pretty good to take Western to some close games, especially when
Yeah.
we're season 11 Grandmaster.
That's gotta feel good, man. That's gotta feel good. Look back on this series, watch it again, and just enjoy it because you guys did really make a mark on collegiate this year. And if this is your last split competing, I mean, you had a hell of a run, and it's something to be proud of. But I appreciate you coming on for this interview. It does take a lot to come on after a tough series like that, but go enjoy, go relax. You've got the split off now, so go take some time, and best of luck with finals or anything if those are still going on for you. So.
Thank you.
That is a tough series, man. All right,
Yeah.
we do have another interview with Winston coming up after this. I believe we are throwing it to a break before we get Winston in so we can connect him. But we will be back shortly with an interview with Western jungler Winston. Don't go anywhere.
And in previous games, but
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the winners interview with none other than Winston from Western Legends, University of Western Ontario. Incredible series, man. Let's just start big picture. Walk me through some of the emotions that you're not only feeling now, but as you guys were, defending that Nexus and, taking it to them to win the game too.
Yeah, kind of at least going into the game, and a lot as you saw in the game 1 and 2 ending, like really high tense situations, pressured situations, which a lot of my teammates haven't really experienced, especially my solo laners. So I thought they did really well, kind of like in the situations, being able to calmly listen to kind of what's happening in the comms, being composed during them, and being able to execute on what they did. And obviously we all were committed, especially in that game 2, to the to the final, to the plan, finishing the Baron, getting our base off, knowing that they had the threat of the back door, but I think we handled it better than I expected, which I'm really proud about all my teammates. And then in terms of just kind of any of the emotions, I've been playing professional league for I'd probably say around 3-4 years now, and out of all those wins, I've had like high profile wins, been to the finals in academy, taking down academy teams, being in the amateur system, but no win has ever felt as good, rewarding as this one. This is the first time I can ever say that I was really emotional and had like just tears when I was talking to my parents, because it's like there was like, especially with our program, like it's only us 5 guys, so we just we just really wanted this, and really, I really wanted my teammates to have the opportunity, especially this being my last year, that they have the experience, because I've experienced this twice in the past, and just at a Western, or just at like the Eastern Conference, but just knowing that I could give them the opportunity to experience it as well. That was super awesome, and that's what really pushed me. Like going to this week, holding everyone accountable, and everyone putting that extra work in, it really showed off, which I'm really happy about.
That is so special. I mean, getting to share that moment with your teammates and kind of bring them along with you for the ride, because
Yeah.
if this is your last go around, then you're making a hell of an exit, making it to top 8. How are
Mhm.
you feeling about, going to Los Angeles? I think it's the first time since 2019 that there's going to
Yeah.
be an in-person finals. How does that feel for you?
Mhm. Yeah. I mean, obviously, we weren't aware, kind of like as the season progressed, whether it was happening or not. But as soon as it's announced, obviously that's just like it's like gives that extra motivation. Because I remember falling out of top 16, I'd say we had a stronger roster than we did this time around, with Skytech, who went to academy, and Jim, who had a lot of experience, been in the amateur ecosystem. And I think at that time we didn't take it seriously, and kind of just the outcome that came then just like really hurt me. And I wanted to make sure that even if we weren't to come out on top in this situation, I was able to put in absolutely everything in order to, for not only my teammates but myself, to just have no regrets based on the situation. But just being able to go to LA with my teammates, obviously it's going to be a crazy experience. It's been a while. I've been there a couple of times for scouting ground events, and a couple of times in LA. And like the last time we were there for collegiate, we had the insane series against UCI, which is, I think, is one of the most legendary matches in like kind of collegiate history. But yeah, hopefully we have some tough competition on our side of bracket in both UST, if they make it out, being the favorites, and
Yeah.
Maryville. So I'm looking to take it to, especially Nautilus again, and hopefully we don't fail the top dives that that we did last time when we played versus them. So yeah.
Oh man, I mean the emotions just have to be through the roof, and
Yeah.
completely for a reason, right? That's just such a tense series. But let's talk a little big picture. So you
Mhm.
have played 4 games so far, and you've played 4 games of Volibear.
Mhm.
So that is a champion that not a lot of other junglers in this space are really that keen on. A lot of
Mhm.
Viego, a lot of other champions like that. What is it about the Volibear that really sticks out to you as such a strong champion?
Yeah, so kind of going into it, you already saw based off their prep, they kind of took Graves off the table, which would have been a go-to pick. But obviously there's respect there, and obviously a lot of people, there's a lot of different chat in the community ecosystem as to they that respect man. But kind of going further down the draft, I definitely have a lot more options, which usually become more available to me in amateur. But with the Volibear pick, it's very specific to the teammates in which I'm playing with, being able to be on a champion that enables them to get damage off, has high CC score, able to control neutral objectives really well, as well as, just really facilitate my teammates. Since we aren't, like, obviously, with this month, hopefully we can develop more strats in there, but just, it's more so just to, it's a strong shape of the meta, it's something I'm comfortable on, and just really facilitate my teammates and help them flourish. As you saw with a lot of our drafts. So just it's a pick that we can plug and play, and it really
Yeah.
enables the entire team. And hopefully we'll see in top 8 if they respect that, or we'll see what happens then.
Yeah, I just gotta hope that the VODs are scratched from existence. They don't know. They don't know about the Volibear. But
Uh-huh.
one thing that our analyst Joshi actually brought up is, you're quoted as saying that you think that you're the best amateur jungler in the space, right? Like
Hmm.
you've competed at a higher level, you've dominated at the amateur level. How does collegiate compare to that for you, and where do you
Hmm.
really see yourself fitting in this level of play?
Right. To be honest, I think especially in this round of 16, you'll see in a lot of the matches, collegiate is getting better every year. When we first qualified, directly through the Eastern Conference, it was only the beginning that scholarship programs started to exist really, and there was a lot more funding coming into. But you saw, like, obviously in this round, we're playing against full ride school. They have the resources to develop the league, and which I think is super awesome. And hopefully, that'll continue to happen. And that increases the level of competition. I'd say in amateur, the individual skill is a bit higher, since you have players who have accomplished a lot individually through the ladder and learned through that aspect, and then they are really trying to make a name for themselves and give spotlight to them in the to like LCS orgs and things of that nature. And I think in those situations, I've always been able to, based off my previous experience and just like my individual ability and love for the game, and a series like this really showed it to me again that I've always been super confident in the amateur ecosystem. And collegiate is actually, it's completely different, the way you have to play, the way you have to prep with your teammates, because not everyone has the same situation, right? People are don't have that same aspiration to go pro, right? They have academic responsibilities. They have, just lives outside of it. Because to do really well, especially in collegiate and just amateur, you have to devote your everything to League of Legends, which is something, because of my love for the game, it's always something I've been able to be. I've always been able to be successful on teams like, Wildcard, Mars AV, last split, taking down academy teams, doing super well in PG with those type of teammates. And you naturally have more individual skill and just motive to compete, to show that, because you want to be at that pro level. But collegiate obviously there's different priorities, especially if we're being a non-scholarship school. So it just leaves a lot more incentive to me to, because we wanted this win so bad, really push my teammates and myself to work extremely hard to get there. So I'd say obviously there's like the individual skill, obviously work ethic, time that's actually put towards league, the window that there's a lot of differences. But I do think that the collegiate level is definitely rising. You'll see a lot of the players that were especially on GVU that will probably be on successful amateur teams next foot. So that'll be cool to watch.
Yeah, that certainly will be cool to watch, and the growth of collegiate is something that we're going to have to watch over the next few years, especially with you graduating, right? Who's going to come in and kind of fill that space as one of the top junglers? But
I think Western has some people lined up, so
okay,
hopefully I'll be able to see from there. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I'm looking forward to seeing it. But your guys' run is not over because you won. You made it to top 8. That's so freaking exciting. Any final words before we throw it to a break?
Yeah, honestly, a lot of the times I've done these type of interviews, I haven't, but for this specific interview, I definitely have a lot of people I want to thank. Just kind of going into it over these past 2 weeks, I want to thank all my teammates. Honestly, I was probably, and I kind of noticed and said this to them, and obviously they deflected, but I was being a pest. Like I was continually like, being on their ass daily, make sure you guys have this pick prepared. Can you do, 1v1s, 2v2s? Because, we didn't have a lot of preparation for this, but get specific champions prepared. So I want to thank all my teammates for obviously putting up with me and just really wanting this as badly as I did in my last thing. I want to thank our substitutes, especially like Cyber. He's a player that I think could be successful on any collegiate team, but because like there's two like great people in that position, he never really got the chance until, so he's gonna have the opportunity to go to LA. I want to thank the alumni, some of the alumni like Short Hop and Chim who were here previously. Obviously, were able to give advice and assistance to my solo laners who are more new to their positions. I want to individually thank a lot of people who helped with One Wednesday. There's Niles is a big one who helped out my top laner Dink as well. A lot of my friends in the academy, Meech, Bradley on TL, Tomo, Keetong, Arjanum helped out with drafting so many people. This isn't just like obviously like being a scholarship program, like, or not a scholarship program, like we don't naturally have those resources, but the fact that so many of my people are like dear friends to me and my day ones and went out of their way to really prepare my teammates for this match and being able to win matchups, even though it doesn't directly benefit themselves, I think that's hopefully I'll be able to pay it forward one day and just really show that their kindness really meant a lot to me and my teammates, and as well as just my family, just through this time, throughout my time in the league, just just the sacrifices they've made for me, the support system they've given me, and just everything has really enabled me to really grow as a human, both in the league ecosystem and as well as like finish my school. And obviously like yeah, and a series like this just it's so awesome. Just this is just why I play League of Legends professionally. This is why I want to continue playing it, and I'm glad that I was able to experience a series like this with these guys. And yeah, it's so awesome. So thank you to all the people that helped us matchup wise, draft wise. Thanks to all my teammates and my family who put so much into this and the result really paid off. So thank you to all of them.
It really did pay off, and I love the passion. I mean, you can tell that you clearly care about this. You want this, and I'm rooting for you guys in the top 8. Best of luck next month in
Appreciate
LA.
it.
I mean,
this
you
isn't
guys,
the end, so we'll
it's
keep
not
it going
the end.
for sure.
Yeah, you guys are gonna keep the train going. But that's all for us now. Our next series will start at 3 o'clock Pacific time, so don't go anywhere for that. It is Michigan State up against Harrisburg University. That's going to be a very exciting one, but that's all for us. We'll be back after a break, and take care.
Then to top